Welcome to The Other Storyteller, the podcast sparking conversation in the arts and media world. I'm Maria, a filmmaker, entrepreneur, and curious artist from Colombia, living in the UK and Canada. The world is full of stories of cultures, places, and people, and I want to meet the most inspiring artists and storytellers from across cultures to uncover the stories that become art. Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Other Storyteller. Today I have a really interesting guest, as usual, but today I bet none of you had any idea of what you were walking into, because this is not your usual guest. So I have an incredible martial artist stunts person called Jennifer Lee. Jennifer did Bagua, Tai Chi Chen style, Chianki, I want to say, and martial arts tricking, and got into the stunts world and has done incredible work, such as being Kelly Marie Tran's double in The Last Jedi from Star Wars, and she has participated in a number of huge shows that you might know, such as Flash, Arrow, Snowpiercer. So please welcome Jennifer.
Hi, hi, I'm Jen, and I'm here in this podcast, and I'm very excited to catch up with Maria and share the little pieces of, film or being in film and just a little bit of my stories and try not to be too nervous.
Don't worry, everyone around here is pretty nice. No nasty comments. Everyone's really nice. Everyone loves the podcast so far, and I don't think there's gonna be a difference, because you are definitely an incredible person, and I think everyone's gonna be really interested in hearing your story.
No, thank you.
Well, I want to get this out of the way, because I just don't 100% understand how you become a stunt artist. So I want to get that, because I try to imagine myself becoming a stunt artist, and I love doing all weird kinds of things, and I did gymnastics and all that stuff. But I'm like, how do you turn a passion and skill into like a career?
I think that's a very interesting thing to talk about because I can only speak from my experience, which is the stunt scene in Vancouver, because I think getting into stunts is very different in different parts of the world. I know just very surface level, like when I was in the UK, that there's the there's like a certain system that they have to go through before they can apply to get into stunts. But in Vancouver, like personally, I just kind of stumbled into it. I've always loved martial arts. I grew up with watching all the Chinese, Hong Kong, old Hong Kong martial arts films like with Jackie Chan and like Jet Li and Donnie Yen, which I loved growing up. And then I practiced martial arts as a kid because that's just what I got into and I really enjoyed it. And then I got into this sport called martial arts tricking. And then I trained here in a facility called like Delta Gymnastics, and they have like weekly open drop-ins. And I just happened to train with some stunt people that I didn't even know, like at the time, that stunts was even a job that was here, because I was really young. And then but I guess, yeah, I guess I was lucky that I trained with them, and then I've already became friends with them, and then suddenly I'm like, oh, what? That's like a job you can do, and I already love doing all these things. And then I remember my boyfriend at the time, he was getting into stunts, and then he also trained, like we tricked together, and then so we just trained together, and then we learned a lot of skills more pertaining to stunts, like with film fighting, and then um yeah, we just kind of fell into it. Or I kind
I
of fell
love
into
that.
it, and then having someone there to train together and then kind of pursuing it together, I think helped a lot. Um, I don't really know what advice I would give someone, be like, "Hey, this is how you get into stunts." But I think generally speaking, you train the necessary skills, you try and build a demo reel, kind of like filming the clips of skills that you know that you're good at. Like for you, for example, if for you be like jump roping, or your gymnastic skills, so you would film that and then you would put it into a short clip, and then you can present it to like different coordinators and stuff, and then I think that, and then resume, and then getting a headshot, and that would be kind of the things that you want to build together, and then you try and meet people and build relationships, and then eventually hopefully get an opportunity. But I was gonna say, like, it's a little bit hard initially to get in because to work on a lot of the bigger TV and like film projects, they're all unionized. So they don't hire people who are not union, but I don't know. It's kind of a weird system. Like you need a union credit to work on those films, but they don't hire you if you don't have a credit. But you need to get all that first job so you can get your first credit. So it's just kind of waiting and hoping and trying to push for that opportunity for, if they need specific performer for a specific skill, or if your body and look like matches a certain actor and there's no one else there and they fight for you, like the stunt coordinator fight for you, and then that's how you would get your first credit. But sometimes it's harder. It's pretty hard in the beginning, I guess I would have to say.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess that works different from the camera department where you basically have to get non-union credits, then you become a trainee and then you can get in unless there is a shortage and then you become a permittee and then you're able to join the union with those credits as well, which
Yeah.
is kind of what happened to me as well. It was
Oh, cool.
interesting. I guess there's an overlap, but I have to say, I did go to the Delta facility
Oh, nice.
and I sucked.
No.
I sucked. I was like, oh yes, I can do a cartwheel and I guess I can do some
Oh,
stuff. And I used to be able to do like backflips and things like that when I was much younger. But like when you haven't practiced anything since you're like 11 or 12, and then you try to do them when you're like 21,
yeah.
your body's changed and it doesn't work.
No. It's still in there somewhere, and then you just gotta practice and your body get used to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And to this day, I now like try to do a lot of things, gymnastics related, calisthenics I'm getting into right now, which I guess is like
Awesome.
you also practice all of that like really spatial awareness, body awareness, and body control that you require for a lot of these skills. But like martial arts, that's like a whole new level.
I try. I feel like my air awareness is not that good.
I,
Within stunts. Oh, sorry. Within stunts, I do more like film fighting, which I don't
Mhm.
need to go upside down a lot. And even when I did tricking, like a huge part of it was like the kicking stuff, which I don't need to go inverted. Even though I did do some of it, it's not hugely my thing. Like tumbling and like crazy flips, like I do a little bit, but not crazy.
Not as much. I guess
No.
that every artist has like their skill set that they're more specialized in, or how do you do that?
Yeah, I guess within stunts, like when you think about it in terms of movies, like they covers a huge variety. Like so there's like people who specialize in more high falls, like they'll fall like 50 feet, and like I don't do that. And then
Hmm.
they have like more wire focus, like, and then there's like horseback riding or um like cars and motorcycles. Like I don't do any of that. Um
Hmm.
so I would do more focus on like film fighting and then some falls and some wire work when it's needed. But yeah, and then each performer that is already in stunts, like you'll have your demo reel, you'll have your resume, and um I guess your headshot, like I mentioned before. Um Usually if they hire you, like they can see what you can do on your reel and like roughly
Hmm.
kind of what you're comfortable with, what your body is capable of. And then if it seems like easy enough, like, oh, it's a fight scene, and they see in your reel that you've had a lot of experience with film fighting, then they probably won't even tell you. Be like, oh, you're here for a day, um you're hired. And then you
Oh
go
my
in. But
God.
if there's something crazy, like, oh, this is very specific, they need someone to fall from, like, I don't know, a really high ground on into like water, they'll probably talk to you about it on the call, like when they call you to see if you're available, to be like, hey, are you, like, this is the stunt, roughly, are you comfortable with that? Because if you're not, like, then you shouldn't say yes to the job, kind of thing.
Hmm.
uh, and that's kind of how you feel it out. So sometimes you know, sometimes you don't, but if you don't know, you probably don't need to, usually, I
Hmm.
guess. Yeah.
And I guess for the ones that are like big fights,
Mhm.
do you actually like have to rehearse that a lot, or how does it work? Because I do know that there's like rehearsals prior,
Mhm.
but is that like how much time do they really give you to learn that whole choreography of fight?
As a stunt performer, you don't get as much time as you think because they
Yeah.
expect you to kind of get it pretty fast. And then after that, they have to spend time working with the actress or actor, if you're doubling them. And that's like fighting with them or like teaching your actor so that they can do the fight as well, because they'll be using their face and they'll be mostly focusing on them. So if anything, I feel like we learn it pretty fast, or and then we work with the actors so that they can do it as well on the day. And that's kind of more where we spend the time because they have so many other things to work on, and then they got to learn it. But it
Wow.
depends on the project, because sometimes they don't have that much time either. So we just got to try and feed them pretty fast. And then if they're able to cheat it, they'll try and hopefully get us to do more of the fight so they don't have to do as much. But yeah, I hope that answers your question. I just kind of
That totally does. That totally does. And I have a question, more questions, because I love questions.
tell me.
What do you think is better? To be like I guess to get a lot of jobs or to get your foot through the door? Is it better
Mhm.
to look like everyone else? So kind of like have a very um like standard face, height, and then you're able to kind of double for many different people? Or do you think that, like, say, if you have a different look, if you have like red hair, and there's not a lot of actors that can do like a red hair character, for example,
Mhm.
do you think that it's easier maybe to get that first role because you have something that has like a different look about you?
Short term, maybe having something that stands out is good for the first
Hmm.
chance to be like, hey, we don't have anyone like that. Like you're
Hmm.
6 foot tall, like black girl. There's
Yeah.
like two, maybe. No, maybe like
Hmm.
zero. 5'10", let's say 5'10".
Hmm.
And then so that would be like their opportunity to get in. But for a longer period of time, I guess someone that's more generic a little bit.
Hmm.
I can't really say what generic is, but just
Like
more
an
people.
average height
Yeah,
for
or
your
like
race and gender, I guess.
Yeah, or just for the time of like what is being filmed in the area for like those
Hmm.
kinds of roles. And, like in the past,
Hmm.
it probably, I don't know, 5'6", like skinnier,
Yeah.
like Caucasian girl. I don't know, but now like it's nice to see there's more Asian focused shows like Kung Fu here, which was filmed here, and
Hmm.
then a lot more. Like I was like, oh, my Asian girlfriends are getting cast. Like it's amazing. And then so yeah, it also depends on that, I guess.
And when
That's
you
a hard question to answer, I think.
And when you think about, say that you're doing a lot more, I don't know, like if you go into productions that are more centered around, say, a narrative that is Asian, so Kung Fu or something like that, do you
Mhm.
find that also the specific martial arts and the background that they look in the people that are performing the stunts is specific to a specific martial art, or do you think that they also still hire people from different backgrounds, maybe some people that come from stunts in dancing or parkour or other things?
I think like movement is pretty. Hmm. There's similarities to different types of movements, and then just
Hmm.
having background in one definitely like just your body physicality, like in strength and flexibility, like it helps with everything. Um, but and then also within stunts, people come from all different backgrounds, but you have to perform like sometimes similar things, and then also have to learn new things all the time, and that's just all of us. You can't be good at everything. So I came from more traditional Chinese martial arts background, like you said, like bagua zhang, and then Chen style Tai Chi, and then I went into tricking, which is all like kind of random, but um, it was actually a little bit hard for me in the very beginning because I those types of martial arts, bagua Chen style Tai Chi is considered internal martial arts, like Chinese internal, softer style. So there's not a lot of like power and like kind of snappiness to it. And then I found like after going into stunts and trying to learn more like martial arts film fighting, it was a little bit hard for me to look sharp because everything was so soft style. But it was also good also in a way that I can kind of learn from somewhat of a blank slate as compared to like someone who does boxing specifically like for real fighting. Everything is a lot shorter. You're not supposed to let your opponent know when the hit is coming. So to go from that to like martial arts film fighting, which is a lot different because you want to project, you want it to look good, you want it to look exaggerated, you want the camera to be able to see it, and you want your opponent to be able to see it to be safe. You have to unlearn things and then relearn things. But for me, I was kind of able to learn it, but I also had to study some boxing and like karate and like other styles to make sure that I look sharp. I guess to answer your question, like I think a lot of really good stunt people comes from like a dancing background and like even gymnastics. Like they just have to learn those skills as well, and then adapt as new things come to you when you're doing jobs, I guess.
Yeah, that sounds super interesting. I guess that it's not a one size fits all, and you need to know these specific skills. Like for everyone, it's the same cookie cutter. I guess it's quite different. Do you find that you ever go into a film and like you're asked to do a stunt that you're not able to do or something like that?
There are definitely times where I'm like, okay, I remember one specific thing where I was asked to do a stunt getting pulled, like ratcheted. Basically, there's a machine that you press a button and there's like a air gauge that like when it activates, it'll like pull you at a certain power and then they'll like ramp it up and stuff. But I was supposed to stay underwater with like a scuba diver and then get pulled out of the water. But I'd never done scuba diving before. So I remember like they're like, oh, can you do this? And I was like, I've never done that before, but I will go and get that class or tutorial or whatever I needed to not get certified, but at least get the experience of what it's like to, I didn't need to be in the gear, but at least experience what it's going to be like underwater with the piece, I guess.
With the mask, yeah.
Yeah, so that I had to learn on the spot. And then I think and there's another show that was going on here called Motherland, and in there the characters was like all girls, and I was like, oh, this is an amazing show. But yeah, in there the characters like used like a rope dart-ish weapon, and I remember there is a time where like all the stunt girls were learning how to use a rope dart. So yeah, so sometimes you need to learn the skills for the job.
Sometimes there's certain things that you just don't know how fast you're gonna be able to learn them, I guess.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean they did their best to teach us too, because they needed the performers for the job. So we did classes, and then we'll help each other, and then do little games and stuff. It's a nice community here, I think. Yeah.
Do you have like a move that's like your move, like a stunt or like a trick that you're like, this is mine, like I do this so well?
Oh, I don't know if I have any tricks. I'm getting old. I don't know. I used to do a lot of tricking, and then in terms of just tricking, I used to do this move called axe aerial. Wait, is it axe aerial? Aerial axe. I would do the aerial, which is like a cartwheel without hands, and then when I land, I would hold my leg and then come down afterwards. It doesn't sound as I don't know how to describe it, but that was something
I've done the cartwheel without the hands, and it's really hard. And let
yeah.
alone landing with one leg. Really
yeah,
hard.
aerials is very common, so that's something that I'm like, yeah, I can do that because it's easy.
That's super. I love that. Is there anything that you're like, I want to get into this area of stunt work, like some skills that you want to develop or some experiences you've never had that you would like to get?
I think earlier in my career, I might be like, yeah, throw me in a fire stunt. No, I'm just kidding. It sounds really cool, but also very scary for me. And then also like high falls, like super high ones. I'm like, yeah, I don't think I'll ever do that. Do little. I like to be grounded. Like doing film fighting stuff is, I think, my favorite. And then some wire work stuff is pretty fun too. But like huge ratchets and crazy car stunts, I don't think. Yeah.
Do you find that like it's maybe girls are a little bit more afraid of like dying on sets. I don't know how
I
to
don't know.
put that
I'm
in a
afraid of
different
dying.
way.
Luckily here in like North America, we're pretty keen on like safety and trying our best to stay safe. Like we'll have the mats whenever necessary, and putting on like stunt pads is pretty encouraged. I've heard crazy stories from like the old school Hong Kong stunt guys of how they like, yeah, we don't need a helmet. Do you need rehearsal? Just do it. And
Oh
then
no.
like hitting the ground, like no pads, and like falling and then hitting things and then falling again. Like it's so crazy to like watch them. And I feel like to some sense, like as part of that history, like that is like the real stunts. And then what I'm doing is safer, which means I can do it for longer time, which is great. And then, rehearsals and then making sure you're safe.
Mhm.
Is good.
I
And
guess
then in terms
it's
of
important because at the end
yeah.
of the day, like someone can die doing stunts. And I remember in 2017, I was working actually in a film that contained a lot of stunts,
Mhm.
and there was the passing of the stunt person in Deadpool. I want to say it was,
I've heard about that. Yeah.
um, and you feel it's really sad. It's
Hmm.
just one of those situations that you're like, damn, like how did that happen? And those things can happen realistically. Like you can always also die in other jobs, it's not like stunt specific.
Yeah.
But also there's, I guess, quite a lot of possibility for people to get concussions and to get hurt,
Hmm.
which would impact people's mental health. So it's good to kind of acknowledge that there's risks that come with that as well, and a whole new level of appreciation as well for people that put themselves in that kind of risk.
Yeah, as much as you try and keep it safe, there's always risk. Which is why stunts is stunts, and that's a different department where people are more specialized in, trying in knowing how to try and stay safe. I guess going back to the last question, I didn't really answer your question completely, but as a female stunt performer, I would say like in some sense you got to be like pretty tough, and I know a lot of female stunt performers who are really tough because like with the characters that you get to double, um sometimes you don't get a lot of costume, like if they're wearing like bikini or if they're wearing like just a dress, like there's nothing covering your knees, nothing covering your arms, so there's no space for you to put like stunt pads and stuff. So in that sense, like it can be more difficult for female stunt performers. And then for concussions and like other risks like that, yes, definitely. Like even if you do as much as you can to try and keep safe and put on the stun pads and have clear communication between everyone with like wire work and um you know just doing everything that you can just stay safe, like there is still risk. And I've personally witnessed like some of my friends who has gotten concussions on set. I won't like, say any of their names or like what show it
Hmm.
is. But sometimes it's just the communication and the pressure on set. And, if they were rehearsed it a certain way, but when they're shooting, the director or someone else would be like, hey, can we add this last second? And then they have to add it. But then with that adjustment, it's now different and they don't get another rehearsal. And then they're with the pressure of being on set and everything's rolling and everyone's waiting on you, like definitely like those things do happen as much as you try to prevent it, I guess. And but
And I think that's interesting. That's interesting for like directors also to hear, because I think that sometimes we're like, oh, can we just get this add this
mhm,
little kick, and it's
yeah.
different. Like your choreography, your timing changes, and it can put people at risk even if it looks like a small thing. So it's good that you share that.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's hard too because like yeah, I know like as a director, like when you need to get the stuff done and then there's only that limited time and resources and
Hmm.
sunlight. And so something that I think as a stunt performer that you hear a lot within like our circle is when you're working, a lot of times the production will prioritize the acting and the actors,
Hmm.
and they'll take 95% of the day, and then the stunts is like sometimes kind of pushed to the end. So you might not have time to warm up. You might not have time to do like last walkthroughs. Like you just kind of have to do it, and sometimes that makes it a lot harder and a little bit more dangerous for the performers, because there's extra pressure on you to get it right the first time, or to you know just a lot less leeway. And I also wanted to touch on like in terms of concussions, like it is a very serious issue, and then within our union and within our community, we've had quite a lot of like workshops, and just kind of so people are aware of the repercussions, and like how it should be taken seriously. Like if someone's suspected of having a concussion, like then you stop and talk to them and make sure that
Yeah.
they're okay, and then not to go again. Um, and try to find ways around it, because I won't go into too much, but everyone knows now,
Yeah.
hopefully, that concussion is a serious issue.
Do you have any thoughts about how AI could actually come in and potentially risk the jobs of many stunt performers, and as we know, with the strikes that are ongoing, in protecting the, I guess, image of actors, so that they cannot just be AI generated. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I definitely stand in solidarity, and I support like the strike, and also with the performers fighting back against like the big studios and stuff. Like that's like 100%. This is like just, I think, out of necessity because of the rise of AI. Like you said, like I don't kind of I see those clips pop up once in a while. Like, I mean, actually, it comes up quite a lot, like on Instagram feed and stuff. It's like, oh, this new thing that AI is now capable of. Oh, now they can edit, I don't know, videos, and now they can like create music, and it is pretty scary, I think, as an artist, because I also draw and stuff, and that's a pretty direct and like very easy to see like impact on how it's like will potentially like affect a lot of jobs and a lot of artist skills. But I'm hopeful that it can be kind of out of necessity, like utilized in a way that we can use it as a tool but still retain our creative freedom and as an artist. But I can definitely see the threat of it. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
and I think about it a lot, because there's a part of it that makes me think about safety. So it's like, if there's certain stunts that really push it a lot and that they require, like if you have been shooting with a specific artist and you have already engaged them, and there's a specific stunt that requires AI, I think that maybe there's a space for it to happen that way, but it would be very limited to that specific stunt in that specific movie. Because once you are scanned, if you don't have very specific contractual obligations and limits to what's being done, I guess it can really get out of hand and compromise a person's likeness.
Yeah, I think I haven't read too much into it, but I've definitely heard that. I think that's one of the things that they were fighting for is I might get the specific wrong, but I think the studios were fighting for, like, once they scan like a background performer once, like they're able to use it without paying them for forever. So they're like,
Yes.
this is used forever without pay. I'm like, it's pretty crazy to think about, but yeah.
And I
then
know that a lot of people have already been scanned in productions supposedly for that specific movie, but they never specify if it's just for that for that film or for that scene. So you might actually get paid just for the one set day, but then you might be on multiple set days, which I think it's kind of disrespectful.
Yeah, it's hard. It's a deep hole to dive into. There's so much new information like popping up all the time, and I think I mean, I can see that it's not going to stop regardless of us. So I'm hopeful that there are aspects that we can utilize, and I'm hopeful that we can retain our rights to a certain extent. But in reality, I don't know where it's gonna go. And there's part of me there's part of me also that's a little bit excited to see where it's gonna go, because it's such a big, like, encompassing thing. It's not just within stunts, like, or within art. There's so many other things that can come out of it. Like, I've used ChatGPT before to help, like, brainstorm ideas and stuff, and like that's been helpful. And then I've also played with, like, where I would draw like an image, like do most of the sketching, and then I put it into an AI software just to see what it would come up with. And it's sometimes some of the things is pretty impressive, but I can see how it's kind of scary too.
Yeah, I am in many ways actually quite a bit of an AI enthusiast, in like I want to see what it's capable of, and I think that if it is to give people time and quality of life, I think that would be great. But I think that we always have to kind of limit to what extent we use it, and how that affects other people ultimately. So definitely acknowledging that, because it's an ongoing situation that a lot of people are going through, because also I know that there's a lot of people that are, out of a house or out of work for a very long time, and that is also very complicated for people in the industry. Okay, I'm itching to ask you something, and I didn't plan to ask you, but I just feel like I need to ask you.
Let's hope I can answer.
How did you get the role in Star Wars? Like, that's freaking awesome.
Yes, that was very awesome. And at the time, I've never been to the UK, and it was very exciting for me. Funny story. I was actually still in Emily Carr at the time, and so I got an email from a friend here. He recommended me to one of his friends, who has gotten an email from one of the stunt riggers on Star Wars. And then they're like, "Oh, are you available to come to the UK to audition?" And then so I basically just like, "Oh my god!" And then I dropped everything from school, and then I was like, "Okay, then I'll get this ticket for just going to the UK to do the audition." For like, I think I was there for 2 or 3 days. It wasn't a long time. And then I went to the UK. I did the audition, and then everything worked out, and then I was able to do the skills that they required. And then I found out later that I was like, "Okay, I think you're hired." They're like, "Oh, you're hired." And then I went back, and then I was there for 6 months. But yes,
that
was basically
first of all, like, oh my god, like imagine you get, I don't know, like you get that email, you're like, I'm just gonna get on the first flight I can, like you just chill.
Yeah, I think,
and you didn't tell anyone. You were like so quiet about it. I was like, where's Jen next semester?
Oh yeah. I'm just kind of shy. I never like to brag about anything. So people ask me questions, I'm like, I'm okay. I'm good. But no, that was
I love it.
very, very lucky that I got to have that experience. And yes.
And very well deserved as well. Because I think that, I think that in this life, there's a lot of people like me that you do whatever school tells you.
Yeah.
But there's not very many people that are able to just kind of tune out what authority says and be like, I know that this is what I have to do, and kind of like just go do it. And you just took a chance, and it paid off. So
yeah.
props to you.
I was like, oh, I would go to UK over going to school. I'm just kidding. But yes, not really kidding.
When you go to UK to do an audition, is it out of pocket, or is it like the company brings you over for the audition?
I mean, that was in 2016, so I don't really remember the details. But I think at first I was out of pocket for that chance. And then after that, they reimbursed me once I got hired, I think.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think, but it's one of those things that I would be like, am I going to get the job, or am I going to spend the money?
But I'm going to work on Star Wars.
Okay, so I want to take a second to kind of do a little bit of retrospective and think about when you were starting your career. what would you say to your younger self? Like, what advice would you give your younger self when you were getting started?
I'd say, I mean, it still applies to me now, I think, but just to be kind and be respectful. I mean that's like going for overall, not to say I'm not, but I guess like just to spend more time on conditioning and like just training more regularly, because it's interesting like working in film. Like, as you know, like also as a film person, sometimes you work like 15 hours and then you're on set like standing around a lot, or and then you don't work for like a few weeks and then you work like 1 or 2 days. Like if you're not on a consistent job, there's a lot of downtime. And then if you're good and disciplined and you would train regularly, but sometimes the training is like, going out to take classes and like doing that kind of training with partners and stuff, but it's not enough on like weight training and like body conditioning. And it's that conditioning that really keeps your body like strong and functioning for a long term. And then when you're working on like which is what I used to do when I was starting out, is just go and do tricking at the gym, and that would be my training, but not enough conditioning. It's and then after a while you slowly start to feel like, hey, I'm getting a lot of injuries, and then I'm not really taking care of my body, even though I am trading a lot and learning new skills. Like, I guess I would just tell myself to do more weight training and more body conditioning so that I stay strong for a longer time.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. And I was actually talking about this with friends recently. It's like, even when you exercise, when you go to the gym a lot, it's like you could be at the gym every day and you can be lifting the heaviest weights, but there's a lot of the things that are like skeletal functioning and maintaining kind of your what do you call, like, skeletal muscles quite strong is so important, because at the end of the day, I love doing shoulders, but like my shoulders are not gonna keep me walking for the rest of my life. It's my spine and my legs, right? So very important to just think about it holistically as well. And I guess stunts is kind of like a lifestyle in itself. You have to continue to work on it when you're not working.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you recommend any movies for like stunts that you're like, this is the best movie with the best stunts, or like, if I had to watch it, I will watch it a million times?
That's some pretty high pressure. I mean, when I think of stunt movie like recently that just came out, that is like really like a lot of really high quality stunts, I would say, and like big stunts, I would say John Wick 4.
I knew you were gonna say that. I haven't watched it, but John Wick has incredible stunts. Like, holy Jesus.
Yeah, John Wick 4 is pretty crazy. My husband is also in film, and then we watched it. I was like, dang, that is like only possible because I think the director is also used to be a stunt performer or a stunt person,
Really?
stunt coordinator, and then so he has all the resources and all the focus and value on the stunts. So that was like a huge part of the movie, and yeah, it was pretty amazing. I don't want to.
had no idea about the background of the director. Like, that's super interesting. I'm gonna go watch it again, because I think I watched up to the John Wick 3. I haven't watched the fourth one, so I'm gonna go
Yeah, the
watch
fourth
it.
one is pretty epic. I recommend.
Plus, their cinematography is incredible. Like,
Yeah,
oh my God, I love it.
definitely.
John
And
Wick, great
some
movie.
fun memes that came out of it too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of crazy stair falls. I don't know if
Well,
you've
they
seen.
have like all the stair falls in John. I think in John Wick 2 or John Wick 3 also they had a
Yeah.
lot of
Well,
like
this
stair
one's gonna
falls,
top
which
it.
even more.
Yeah, that's why.
Gotta watch that.
But outside of that, the stunts was amazing in the fights and stuff. Yeah.
Also, like, stair falling is quite dangerous, right? In like stunts.
I guess it depends on the stair fall, because like you could go into the stair fall and just roll, which is actually not that bad if you have enough momentum, is what kind of what we say. But there are some people that do stair fall, like they just do like a tumble or like fall backwards on, and then like they do a flip into the stairs and then they keep rolling. That's a lot more dangerous. But stair fall by itself is not too bad.
Oh my. I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna like hit my neck or something because I'm very afraid.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you have to watch movies or films or things from like one country for a whole month, what would you choose?
Can I say anime? Because it'd probably be anime. I think I either pick that or like Hong Kong old like 80s movies.
Yeah, I love that.
I would go back and rewatch it and still all really good.
You know what I could watch for a whole month?
Mm-hmm.
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter? You a Harry Potter
Harry
fans?
Potter. I'm a Harry Potter fan.
Yeah.
I can watch Harry Potter a million times a year. And when I ask people this question, I'm like, so curious why nobody says Harry Potter.
Yeah. I did like Harry Potter. I mean, I loved Harry Potter growing up, but did you like the movies as well?
The movies as well. I love them. I love the movies. I love the books.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to go on like the Pottermore forum. And I used to read about it because I was like, I want to know more.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny.
Have you been to the Universal Studios to like see the sets and stuff?
I haven't. Actually, they have them here. They have the Junction, whatever, by London. They have the studios with everything, like where they shot, but I have not been. But I have been to all the locations that are across the UK, except to the ones in Scotland. So I like made a list of all the abbeys and I started going like, let's go to London, but we actually take this other route. And I started like checklisting everything. And I'm like, oh, this is where they shot the brooms, or this is where they shot like Snape's class, and I love that stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I love a lot of you asked me about stunt films in particular. I'm like, yes, John Wick 4, but I actually love a lot of other films like that's more just like animated films as well. And if I have to recommend another movie that's not action related, I would recommend Maquia, The Promised Flower Blooms. I don't know if you've seen it. It's like
no, I haven't.
Pretty long, like animated film, but it's about like a quick summary. There's a race. It's like a kind of fantasy world. There's a race that is very like non-aggressive. Like they don't really do any conflict or anything with any other race or country, but they live for a very long time. And so their role is kind of tasked with like weaving these like fabric that kind of contains and like records history. But of course, like in the world where there's like greed and like kingdoms that want to kind of fight for the power balance, there's one country that came and like ravaged and like destroyed and killed everyone, and then to try and like take a girl home to kind of breed with her so that they can have that, I guess, edge on other countries, because their heir would be able to live for a longer time. But the story is about one girl from that race that kind of escapes, but now she's kind of navigating the world, and then she adopts a child, and then slowly, like as she ages so much slower to everyone else, like she stays like a teenager as her adoptive son like grows and gets old. And so it's just her navigating and like kind of slowly learning to appreciate like her life and like the relationships between people. It's really beautiful film. I really recommend it.
That sounds incredible. I love it. It sounds like it has these almost like nostalgic or melancholic undertone to like spirituality, and like almost like a coming of age film, but not really. Like very interesting. I love that.
And also like about motherhood as well. It makes me cry. Yeah, very beautiful.
That is I imagine that she probably is almost like a teenage mom, but not a teenage. That's very interesting.
It is pretty interesting.
I'm gonna go watch it, and I'm gonna put it in the description as usual. So to end the podcast today, I want to ask you if you have any last thoughts, if you have thought about a skill that you want to learn.
actually, like, I have thought about this is not really specifically pertaining to stunts, but as you know, like, because we both come from Emily Carr, and like as filmmakers, I also really enjoy the filmmaking like side of storytelling, and then also
Hmm.
something like, because I'm like, oh, I love stunts and it's so exciting and the people is lovely and I love the community and I want to stay in it as long as I can, but I don't know if I'll be able to do stunts forever because, as you get older, it becomes harder on your body as much as you try and upkeep it. So I also do something called like stunt previs, like
Hmm.
pre-visualization is when, they do uh for the stunt department, they'll do the action like choreographing ahead of time and they'll block it like whether in a studio or at the location, and I will help them film the fight scene as much as good as we can make it look, and then we edit, and basically I'll film it, I'll edit it with the coordinator's instruction, and then
Hmm.
we'll show that video clip to the director, to the actors, to production so that they can see what that could look like. And that's, of
Wow.
course, with the stunt performers. And that's just so they get an idea. But that's something I can do forever. So if anything, like that's something I want to get better at doing. And I've done it for a few years now, but there's always things to learn. And that's something
And
I
I
want to
think
time into.
that is super interesting because at the end of the day, it's like any sport. Um, you kind of have to have a plan about what you're gonna do after a certain time when you start getting tired, when like when you get older, you might not want to do it or might not have the possibility to do it. So it's always good to have other ideas and something in your back pocket because realistically, even in film, like the hours are very long, the equipment is very heavy,
Yeah.
and you start thinking about like how long you're gonna be able to do certain jobs.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I love that, and thank you for bringing that up because I think that that's something that um, it's good for other people in other departments, but also other stunt people that might be listening, might be starting to think about these kind of things.
Hmm.
Well, girl, this is the end of our talk today. I am so, so grateful. I think that for me, all of this is new. And even though I have worked in films where there's stunts, there's so much you really don't understand and that you really don't see. So getting that insight from you has been incredible. Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun catching up with you, and I hope that I was able to answer some of your questions okay. I know I tend to ramble a
You
little bit.
did. No, you did. You actually gave so much context, and I think that that's really what I wanted to get
Mhm.
people to get more interested or more aware of the stunts that they are seeing. Because I think that one thing is when you see a movie and you're like, "Oh, there's a fight happening," but then you start picking it apart, and there's so much going on. There's so much effort in it, and I think that it deserves the attention from people, and I believe that after this conversation people will go and watch it differently.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.